Hi guys, look where we are today. Isn't it beautiful? You might be wondering why I'm not wearing my mask, but don't worry, I'm far away in the cool hills of the Hellshire. Stay tuned, this is Spanish in 6. In today's episode of Spanish in 6, we are going to learn how to introduce ourselves, how to say our names in Spanish, how to ask someone their name in Spanish, how to say nice to meet you, I'm fine, and all those nice things. But before that, let's jump right into our Did You Know feature.
Now, the history of Spanish in Jamaica is very extensive, but the arrival of Spanish in Jamaica began in 1494 with the arrival of Christopher Columbus to the island in search of gold, as in Cuba and the Spanish, where he had reported the existence of the island, calling it Jamaica, intending to say in the indigenous language, place of gold blessed, but then discovered that there was no gold.
Great! Now that we've learned something, or probably, now we're gonna say our names, or rather, now we're gonna learn how to introduce ourselves in Spanish by saying our names, and also how to ask someone their name. Now, there are different ways to tell someone your name, but the most popular one is me llamo. That's the literal translation for that is I am called, but we do not speak like that in English anymore. We say my name is. Repeat after me. Me llamo. Me llamo. Now, you might be wondering, how is that spelled? To be honest, there is no Y in me llamo. It's actually two L's. Me, M-E, another word, L-L-A-M-O. Now in Spanish, double L's are pronounced as Y's. Why? Well, that's something for history. But let's repeat it again. Me llamo. Me llamo. And so we can practice that. Me llamo Dean Andrew. Me llamo, you might be Carol, Dave, who knows? But whatever your name is, me llamo, then your name. Okay? Another way to introduce yourselves is mi nombre es, which literally means my name is. Most persons they usually use the first way, but mi nombre es is also popular. Repeat after me. Mi nombre es. Mi nombre es. So my name is and then your name. So in both instances, your name comes after the term. Okay? Great. Now to ask someone their name is ¿Cómo te llamas? Now in Spanish, of course, as in other languages, you have the polite form and the informal way of saying anything. Now, ¿Cómo te llamas? Is informal. Now, if you're speaking to an elder, somebody who you don't know, who is in high regard, we say ¿Cómo te llama? Now, instead of llamas, we say llama. Okay? So, we will not get into that aspect. That's for another episode. But repeat after me. ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? So, how to ask someone their name? ¿Cómo te llamas? And they would respond, me llamo, as in my case, Dean Andrew. So you'll ask me, ¿Cómo te llamas? And I'll respond, me llamo Dean Andrew. Great. Now that we know how to say our names and to ask someone their name, we are going to ask them how they are. Now, to ask someone, we say, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Repeat after me. ¿Cómo estás? Now that means, how are you? Now the person would respond, I'm fine, which is muy bien. Estoy muy bien. So the person would say, I am fine, or I am very fine. Estoy muy bien. So estoy bien, I am fine. Estoy muy bien, I am fine. Now, the person would say, nice to meet you. Now, nice to meet you actually is el gusto es mío or mucho gusto. These terms are used interchangeably, so whichever one you're comfortable with, you can use. Okay, great. Repeat after me. Mucho gusto. El gusto es mío. Great. Now we know how to tell someone it's nice to meet them. I hope we've learned a lot today. So the next time you see a native speaker of Spanish, you will be able to have a small conversation with them and not feel too bad. Okay? Until next time, hasta luego. Este español en 6 minutos.